cries in virtual reality and in real life?
Crying in real life and virtual reality, that's the way to fucking go. I tell you what,
Anything you want to do?
this was one of the most chaotic races I've ever had. And it's only the first day, as we transition into VR, and we do 2 laps of the Nurburgring with mixed conditions. And as we start in P8, finally getting a half-decent lap in, good enough for P8, considering I think P9 didn't even put a lap in. We go into turn 1 very cleanly, which is always great to see, especially at that corner as the super in front of me dies of death, nearly. As we head down to, I want to say, turn 3 of this 100-plus corner track, as the Japanese driver of A. Mafdi on the inside, as we try and sneak it around the inside as the 4 cars ahead of us. Currently battling position as we come down the hill in 6th place. Just tidying up here, coming up, and as we all go chaotically, the Alfa Romeo 4C hits the car on the inside, on the outside there, which allows me to get 2 places, moving up into P4 as we come up the hill from the Schumacher. I know Hamilton crashed there once upon a time. It's engraved in my brain. As we get a run on the Alfa Romeo 4C, which we comfortably learn later on in the race that he's on intermediate tyres. As about 4 or 5 cars just at the bottom right of the radar all clump up together as we comfortably, I must say, get into P3. And as we leave the GP circuit for the first time this race, we will begin to transition in about 20 seconds time to the next part of the race where things just get a little bit more interesting as we nail the chicane. That's a lot more fun to take than the other one. As we're right behind DJ something. A bit far back. Is that DJ Master? DJ Master 55 getting a bit squirrely on the exit and the entry to the ring. As we now transition forward ahead to the main event. As we're on around the top of the hill, you can see at the bottom right, we're dealing with some wet weather at the moment. As we're about to come up to the corner that leads onto the long, round back straight. Don't know the name of it. Will I ever learn it? Probably not. As we can see the weather right now, in probably the worst part of it right now, almost in the yellow, but still not quite. As the wet weather meter at the bottom right is already about halfway full. Now, at this point, I'm aware that I'm going to have to start braking a lot early and taking a lot more caution on these tyres, as these slicks are not made for wet weather racing, as I brake extremely early for this left-hander, one of which only 2 cars did here, and the 3rd car that didn't was the race leader. See you, mate. As we come up to the double hairpin section, the first one being the one that I get right and the other guy gets wrong. He just forgets there's a corner there, unfortunately, and just goes right into the wall. And I'm thinking, thank you very much, I'll take that. As we go up the hill, me, for some reason, having very short-term memory here, realising there's 2 hairpins here. And I just think, you know what, I'm going to do what that guy did and go doof. And if you look at my rear view camera at the bottom right, he does the same. As we get off the wall, the Supra that was behind us, I'm guessing, happy tomato, as he gets a bit tail happy, as we head to the final, I would say the final third of the Nürburgring, which is just a very sweeping sector, as we transition to the replay camera to grab a great attempt at me drifting like Ken Block, rest in peace that fella. As we now see everybody else doing their impression of Ken Block as they all die of death. Just absolute carnage. It was a sight to behold as we transition to my onboard camera for the moment. Everyone with multitudes of penalties. P1 about 2 seconds ahead and up to P9 behind. Everybody getting penalties left, right and centre. The track is now at the point where it's actually okay to go all out, but not everyone's realised that, as everyone gets close together as we come down this hill, which is just an absolute cluster bomb of cars just not knowing what to do. And I go offline here and hit the wall and just get trapped down, and we're going to see our favourite car of the race overtake me for P8. The Alfa Romeo has come back. I tell you what, that fella at the start of the race, he was in P3 and he's just fallen down on those inters. But it looks like he might have made the right call, at least on the first lap anyways. As we have found the dry line as we whiz past the GTR of the, I think that's Morningstar VR if I remember correctly. as we're going, everyone just dying of death. Everybody recovering from spins as we've gone from P2 to P11, sitting up in P5 now, as DJ Massa right in front of us defending P4 from us for just a moment longer, as we're behind the Mercedes, the guy on the intermediates, and then second place ahead as P1 again bins it. The guy that was in first at the back straight that binned it, the first car to bin it, he's binned it again. What an absolute idiot. As we rewind, we'll just quickly rewatch what happened purely from my onboard perspective, because it's a real sight to behold as I'm driving through, and you get to hear my live reaction as well.
Oh shit. Don't hug the barrier. Fuck. I love that. You can't get off the barrier because it's fucking glues to it. If you can see on the driving light, you're quick. Get off the driving light, you won't be there. No curbs.
In all of that nonsense, from when I spun out the first time, I was in the lead. I then ended up in P12 for just a moment. And then I got back to P2. I'm going to go down to P3 now. But in that 2-minute span, that was some of the craziest racing I've experienced in this game in a long time. As we fast forward onto the second lap, it's me, I think his name's Juan, and the Alfa Romeo 4C, the intermediate tyres has worked very well. Unfortunately, we're at that point now where I don't know if he lost control then or what, but I broke at the right time. I probably niggled him, but nevertheless, he didn't lose time. I didn't get a penalty, so I think that's unfair. As we come over a very dangerous part of the track last lap, as the track is now dried up, the three of us are now moving the back of the hill. I want to say it's the top of the track you see on the side. As we're just starting to, we've got a big, if you look at the bottom right, you can see like a couple of seconds behind me. There's no one behind me right now. As we go with this left-hander, being a bit cautious, taking it out of fourth gear. As we start to see the two ahead, having a bit of a battle here. As I carry a lot more follow-through speed as we go around the outside of Juan. That's the horny Juan move I needed to get past it. One shot, one opportunity. As we come up to the carousel behind the Alfa Romeo, who, if he wasn't versed in the Redeemer X2 right now, he would have probably made a banging decision to be in front of me. As I do a bit of headlight flashing here and dummy it up the inside, put him a bit off. He goes a bit wide here and he just lets me through here, which is I'm very grateful for, as this is the point of the race where it's pretty much done for me now. I've cleared him, and we don't see it in the screen here, but because I think I look away at the wrong time, but we'll transition to what happens to those two in a short moment. as we're now already seconds ahead of everyone else as we transition
Quickest.
to the finish line,
I was at least accident during that race.
where I wasn't the
That
cleanest.
got me the win.
I
Where
didn't
is
have the
that?
cleanest races, like mistakes and
Well, the
stuff.
4C went all the way
But I
down
was
to
the most
11.
consistent, and I won by
The
4
RSL
seconds at the end of it.
Morningstar P3 went into the Supra.
That was great. But let's look at some of the highlights as we transition back to the first lap, right? This is where you expect everything to go wrong. You go to turn 1. This is the most infamous corner of all of gaming for all these things to go wrong. And that's the cleanest I've ever seen it in my life. And P8 to P6 as well. I've had a mega start there. Hang on, no, someone spun out. Never mind, cancel it. It was shit. As we come down to turn 3, and we're on a really good battle. I think that Aston Martin actually did start in P1, so that's why he was actually able to hold the position for so long. But obviously he loses a place or 2 here. There, he's on the inside. I think he's going to try and keep P2 there, as he's got to brake earlier than us. And this is just where it causes a few issues for a few cars. Pushes that one driver a little bit wide, unfortunately, and it just lets me get into P4. That's 2 places. That's 4 places gained within the first minute of the race, which is some epic stuff there. As we got the inside of Hagakure, not for the first time this race, as we already move up into P3 and are able to pretty much maintain position up until the chaos kicks in. And can I tell you, this chaos from the trackside view, it looks like I'm in full control. It looks like the track's pretty dry still. There's a little bit of kickback. But there's the Porsche, the guy that was leading the race. Brad Mackers has gone for Mackers, just put himself in the drive-through. He didn't have his fucking Uber Eats app ready to go because he was spun. As the DJ Master's gone into the wall at the first of the 2 hairpins, as I'm battling for control here. DJ Master isn't too far off, as Happy Tomato, with that 5-second penalty, is really wanted it, as I'm like into the barrier, as well as DJ Master, as the Tomato comes through, as we see the trackside view now of just the absolute insanity. Look at this. Just look at all this that goes on. Just death. Look, this is the top split in the world. These are all the A+ drivers. Like, I recognize all these drivers from like every other week. These are all the best of the best in the region. And nobody of those has a fucking drive in wet weather. I mean, just look at this angle. Look at that! You think you were playing Dodgems? Of course, I'm in the fucking wall, but still, that was just insanity. That was... It makes a great race. P12 for a moment then, behind Waterboy. P11. I'm like, right, the track's dry. Look at the watermarks at the bottom left. I'm like, right, the track's dry enough to give it all out in the dry tyres, because that's just where the mark is half the time. This overtake was so good. He's got wet tyres on the outside there, as I just send it. As you transition to the next camera, you might not see it, but everyone spins out. It's like fucking Moses. Split the water, spread the cars. Oh, there's another one. Absolute insanity, this race. And it's just, we're all so close together as well. It's just, like, we're all within 10 seconds of each other for like the whole lap. And we move to P4 as the Porsche, who was leading, he spun out first, spun out again. As we're 4 cars going into this sector of the track, this is where I get my 1 second penalty, because the guy in P1 is absolutely got no confidence in his car, brakes mega early, causing me to do a few biffs and bash, which gets the 1 second penalty, which is fair enough. But look how close the entire grid is after 8 minutes of driving of unpredictable conditions. It's insane. And probably the best experience of a race I've had. As we transition onto the the second lap where the final overtakes happen for me. You still everyone's pretty much spread out now. The track's gone dry. Everyone's individual skill. As we whip it round the outside, and you wouldn't expect to whip it round the outside, but you just got to whip it real good sometimes. And yeah, into the carousel. We're right behind the Alfa Romeo, who I feel sorry for what happens to him, which you're about to see in a few moments' time after I get past him. But flashing my headlights here, you might see him. There they go. Yeah. As I think he just lets me through at this point. I think he knows he's not worth battle, or he just lost grip or something. I couldn't tell you. But I'm through, and I'm already I don't know what happens here. We'll see it just for a moment. We're going to see what happens here. Maybe not here, but we've got the track map at the bottom right here. And I know on the camera we see it for a second. There it is. So, died a death basically, and as you look at the top left, you can just see their names, Juan and Hagakure. Feel so sorry for those guys. Hagakure had a good race. Juan, it just wasn't the Juan for him today, I guess. But at that point, you look at the bottom right, there's no one really close to me. You got crazy Uncle Bob down in P2. And Morningstar VR, who was right behind me last time when I overtook him, but as we get that nice trackside view, me pulling away. Good camera angle, I'll give Polyphony that. As we come to the final conclusion of the race. Not the fastest lap we get, unfortunately, but pretty quick. Considering I've only done a few laps with the Supra. Supra's just so consistent with now. As we come around the final corner and win a race, I started P8. It's P1 by the carousel first lap. 6 corners later, I was P12. Another 6 corners later, I was P2 again. And then P3. And then somehow won it. So, GG. Thanks for watching.